Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Phantom Reek, and today I'll be doing a video discussing the truth about Greed Island. Now, when it comes to Greed Island, I have a lot to say about this arc. You know, me personally, if you guys don't know, I am a huge fan of Greed Island, but it's kind of like a general, the community, the Hunter x Hunter community, they basically come together and they all come in agreement and say stuff like, yeah, Greed Island, it's not a bad arc, but it's definitely the weakest arc. Or people say Greed Island's boring, or they say Greed Island, it's not that good compared to the other arcs. And today I want to do a video kind of like debunking all that and actually defending why I think that Greed Island is going to be, or not even going to be, but why I think Greed Island is an amazing arc. Now, the first thing I want to discuss when it comes to Greed Island is the plot. Now, the plot of Greed Island was very interesting. It was interesting due to the fact that it was so different. It was so different. Now, previously, the other arcs, we've had them it was kind of based around fighting. The Hunter exams, it was based around fighting, obviously. Now, when I say that they're based around fighting, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that's the general thing. Like the Hunter exam that had to do with fighting. We know Heaven's Arena had to do with fighting. We know the York New City, shout out to New York, but York New City had to do with fighting. So up until all then, we had to do it was the main focal thing of the arcs were fighting. Now, don't get me wrong, Greed Island, it did have fighting in there. I'm not saying that Greed Island was just a completely pacifistic or passive, I don't know how to say it, pacifist arc, whereas there was no fighting going on. But I do like the fact that the main point of the arc did kind of change, and it was kind of different than the other arcs. We actually got to see Gon and Killua training, and we also did get to see stuff like them playing the card game, and I'm going to talk about the card game too later on. But yeah, I definitely do like that the focal point in the plot of the arc was very different. And we know that basically this arc was kind of the biggest connection to Jing at this point. At the point where Greed Island was introduced, this was kind of the biggest arc connected to it. So yeah, the plot of Greed Island, me personally, I do think that it was great, and it's definitely slept on. Now, the main reason why people do actually hate on Greed Island is because they say it's a training arc. And then I know a lot of people, they don't like training arcs, but me personally, I see this goes both ways, to be honest, because on one hand, people, when it comes to training arcs, they'll say stuff like, oh, this arc is boring because it's training arc, we don't want to see these characters train, blah blah blah, just do a time skip. And then you'll have the people say stuff like, oh, you need a training arc, if they don't have a training arc, the author is being lazy. Either way, blah blah blah, they're not showing them training, they're just doing a time skip so they don't have to show new ability, blah blah blah. So really, you can't win with the training arc, let's be honest, because either way you're gonna have some people disappointed. But Greed Island, the thing that I like about this training arc is it was more than a training arc. Usually when it comes to a training arc, and I know I said training arc 50,000 times in the past 30 seconds, but when it comes to a training arc, it usually only focuses on the characters training. We know, for example, when Naruto went to go train with Sage Mode, he was only focusing on that. Luffy, when he went on the time skip, he was only focusing on training. But the thing about this that I like about Greed Island is that they were still trying to complete a goal while training. Yes, it wasn't just your typical sit them down and let's train with Bisky. They were still trying to beat the game Greed Island. They're still trying to go around and actually complete the game. So I definitely do gotta say that for a training arc, it was actually very interesting, and I actually did enjoy it a lot. Now, the next thing I want to discuss is the villain. Yes, because we already know that one of the main things, or one of the key points for a good arc, is the villain. And Genthru, oh my, he was arguably one of the greatest villains in Hunter x Hunter. Yes, I'm gonna say he was one of the greatest villains in Hunter x Hunter due to the fact of his mystery. A lot of people, we were wondering, wait, who's the bomber? And not to mention the fact that when we found out who the bomber was, that was a goat. Yes, a goat introduction, him killing off all those fodder, him, the fact that he was so savage, he looked like he belonged in the Phantom Troop, to be honest. Let's be real, he looked like he belonged in the Phantom Troop. Genthru, he was was definitely somebody who was a monster. I definitely did enjoy Genthu's character a lot, and I definitely do gotta say that his fight with Gon, I'm gonna be honest, this might be very unpopular, but it was one of the best fights in Hunter x Hunter. And I know some people that are already rated dislike and click off the video and just straight up dip, but hear me out. The reason why this fight with Gon was so amazing is because it forced Gon to think differently. Now, usually before Gon learned his Nen, he was really kind of a tactical fighter. You know, he would use like his natural skills, you know, like his hunting skills that he learned when he was a kid, and he would kind of use like, you know, Gon, he was kind of a little bit of a tactical fighter before he got his Nen, but then we know once he got his Nen, he became a little bit reckless. Like, he used to like use Jajunkin, like he just spammed Jajunkin. He used to just spam it all the time. But he was finally faced off with somebody who was like clearly stronger than him while he had his Nen, and this really did force Gon to use his mind. And I do like the fact that basically it was a combination of both, because Gon, he had to be a tactical fighter at this point, but at the same time he still had to rush in and take the advantage. You know, he had to be on the aggressive, because he knew that if he let up and if he started going on the defense, he would have got skunked. And not to mention the fact that just the fight in general was just dope. Like even if you take away like looking at it from like a, you know, how should I say this, like an analytical standpoint, the fight itself was just dope. It was just a dope fight to sit back and watch. You see Gon get his hands blown off, he's still fighting. You see Gon basically trap him like with a huge boulder, drop that huge boulder on him. Like, I don't know what is people's problems, but yeah, that Genthu, the Genthu fight was amazing. I gotta say, top 3 fights in Hunter. I'm saying the top 3 fights in Hunter x Hunter. I don't care what anybody says. The Genthu fight was amazing. And even looking out after Genthu, we gotta talk about Razor. Now, the volleyball match was definitely very interesting. This was basically a great thing because we got to see characters like Hisoka come in. You know, we got to see Killua, Gon, Hisoka all working together. So I definitely do gotta say that even somebody like Razor, his whole little volleyball thing was interesting too. So listen, the villains for the Greed Island arc were definitely amazing. I definitely do gotta say that they were very good villains. You know, you can't sleep on them. Genthu and Razor, shout out to them. They were the real MVPs. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the past of Greed Island. I definitely do gotta say that Greed Island just itself is amazing due to the fact that it was made by Ging. Yes, we know that Ging, he was basically the guy who was, how should I say this? He was the main reason why this story started. So the fact that it was made by Ging and all of his friends, yeah, this is definitely something you can't sleep on. Now, we definitely do know that Ging, he did create Greed Island, and Greed Island, like the name itself, is comes about from like his friends. And now that was actually really dope to find out. I actually do enjoy that part a lot. But Ging, we got to find out, like we got to see more insight about Ging. This was like our first time actually seeing a little bit of Jing's past. Like, we saw him like meeting up with Razor, we saw him interacting with the twins, and we saw him interact, like this was just great stuff all in general. So the lore or the past behind Greed Island itself was dope enough to make me say yes, this was amazing. Now, I know at this point I'm gonna go to my last point, because I know some of you guys, you might be thinking, whoa, this guy is really a Greed Island tard. But the last thing that I want to discuss is the transition into the Chimera Ant arc. Now, this was definitely the best transition ever in Hunter x Hunter. Like, this was the best transition from one arc to another. I'm not even going to say, I'm not even hesitating on saying that this was the best transition, due to the fact that Gon was basically given 2 choices. You know, he could either A, go to Ging alone, or B, he could go to Ging with a friend. Now, we know the whole twisted logic behind that. Ging was basically like, if you come here with a friend, then that means you're a coward. But we know Ging, to be honest, he was just scared to see Gon with the friend, because he didn't want Gon's friend to look at him like, so this is the guy that abandoned you. So yeah, we know that Ging, he kind of did have some twisted logic there. But no, in all seriousness, we saw that basically this led perfectly into the Chimera Ant arc, because we knew Gon, he wasn't going to leave Killua to go like find Ging. He was going to bring Killua with him. So the fact that they ended up meeting Kite off of this, wow, amazing. And then the whole thing with Kite and Gon, we got to get insight about their past. I was like, yes, this is great. Like, I was just thinking to myself, like, once we met Kite and then we got introduced to the whole Chimera Ant arc, I was like, wait a second, did we just transition? Like, This is how you know a transition is good. When you have to sit back and go like, whoa, we already transitioned that quickly. That's how you know they pulled it off and they executed it well, because they did it so smoothly. It didn't feel rushed. It just felt so natural. So the transition from the Chimera Ant arc to the Greed Island arc was definitely amazing, and that is also one of the very slept on things. Like the fact that they're able to beautifully execute that, props to you, Togashi. You are a monster. But overall, I just gotta say that Greed Island, me personally, I do think that it is a great arc due to the fact that the plot itself was very interesting. You know, the whole card game thing, that was a dope plot. I don't care what anybody says, I enjoyed that plot a lot. The training arc, it was different from your average training arc. It wasn't just your main character going off in training and then coming back. Like, he was still actually trying to complete another goal while he was training. So I did enjoy that a lot too. The villains, Genthru and Razor, they were amazing. I enjoyed them a lot. And last but not least, the transitioning from arc to arc was done beautifully. Comment what you guys see down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace out.